Welcome to the Reconnected podcast, a home for sharing, understanding, and growth for the retail grocery store industry. During each episode, we will meet an amazing member of our community as we learn about their story and jointly explore the intricacies and challenges of our supply chain. Through it all, we'll remember and honor that everything starts with the real people who spend so much of their lives supporting the retail food supply chain. We will bring together the voices of manufacturers, distributors, and retailers as we journey together to help our industry reconnect. My name is Luke Abbott, and I'm excited to have you join us. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Reconnected podcast, where today I am joined by the president of Chex Finer Foods, Jeremy Isenberg. Welcome, Jeremy. How are you doing?
Hey, Luke. How are you? Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year. It's great to see you again. It's been just a couple of weeks since my wife and I had dinner with your wife and you.
Your first trip to Rhode Island. I was honored.
Right. And I spent it with you at a great restaurant, catching up. And thank you for agreeing to be part of the podcast today. It's really an honor to have someone of your stature and what you've accomplished and what you do in life here to talk to our audience. And we'll make it fun and interesting and dynamic. Are you ready?
Happy to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Of course. So for those people that do not know you and do not or Chex, could you give us like a minute or two introduction, and then we'll kind of dig into maybe sharing about the journey, the path.
Sure. So I have the privilege of running my family's third generation family-owned specialty food distribution business. I've been at this for, I just was doing the math, it'll be 23 years.
Wow.
This January. I went to my first fancy food show in San Francisco with my dad a few weeks before I started. I was smuggled into the show. But we service about 1,000 retailers, pretty much in the Northeast, and go all the way down to Florida.
Nice.
And we have a really dynamic portfolio of vendors that we've been working to build and curate for, the last almost 60 years.
Wow. That's right. So the business has been around for 60 years.
We were founded in 1965. So my grandfather started Chex when he was 55 years old.
Wow.
He was 84. So we have a mandatory retirement age at 84.
84.
Yep.
That's good.
So
there's hope for you for some peace and relaxation.
I don't know. He loved what he did. And I think that certainly is one of the genes and piece of DNA that I've been blessed with is a passion for this business, which I certainly love.
Nice. Awesome. Hold on 1 second. My microphone or headphone broke off.
No problem.
1 second. Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Of course.
Okay. Perfect. That'll be edited out right here. Okay. Very good. So when did you take over?
So I joined in 2002. But I had grown up in the business. Okay. So I think my first Chex memory was dressing up in a 3-piece suit as probably a 7 or 8 year old and going to, we were exhibiting before we have now our own show called Chexpo, but we were exhibiting at the Boston Gift Show, and I was always trying to sell customers something. And then I would, always was asking curious questions. My dad reminded me of. He said one of my first business questions was, "What does the ink stand for in Chex Finer Foods?" So I just loved the business. I, worked many summers in the warehouse making orders, which has given me a deep appreciation of really what it takes to be a distributor and the work that all our team does. And then I worked in sales for a few summers, and then also, mentored under my dad. And learn the buying side of the business, which I think is so important to, a family distributor like ours. And today, I'm blessed with a great team, and really proud of what we've accomplished, but never lost sight of the values that we were founded upon. Super important to me.
So I'm curious, I do a 3-hour deep dive with brands, and the first thing we do is talk about purpose, mission, values, and I'm curious if you think about like the purpose that you're grandfather had when he started the business like that. And I think a purpose is like how you make the world a better place.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was that purpose? And,
You know,
and I imagine it lives today.
it's a great question,
Mm.
and I think in many ways, the purpose is around really about building exceptional relationships. And I think
Mm.
from those relationships, that's where everything comes, right?
Mm.
So he was really at the very early days of the specialty food industry. It was all family businesses around the country. The Perlmans out in Los Angeles, or
Mm.
the Andersons down at Haddon House in the New
Yep.
Jersey
Know
market,
that.
right?
Yep.
And Bud Suarez down in Florida, which was Tree of Life, right? So, like, I think in many ways, we really humbly didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. But I think as we've evolved, I think our intention really is around trying to build, trusted partnerships on both sides of the aisle, and to meet a market need. And sometimes, we're ahead of the curve. I've had plenty of things we're quote too early on, but really ultimately, provide a need and a value to the market that I think is where we should be measured upon.
I love that. I love that. That's what, and that sounds so enduring. And I'm thinking about the distribution company I used to run and the
Yeah,
purpose of the founder there. And we determined like it was about relationships as well. But ultimately, we as a team, we sat there and tried to divine like what his purpose was. And we thought it was really helping our customers to succeed.
yeah,
And
I love
I
that.
feel like some of that feels like what you guys do too. Like,
Well, it's so interesting. I think there's two philosophies,
mm,
and my philosophy really starts with the simple principle of that. I really was taught this by my dad. Unfortunately, my grandfather saw bits of pieces when I was still working the business, but I was a high schooler when he passed, or maybe in college. Um, but it's really sitting on the same side of the table. Okay.
yes,
And
yes, I
that
love
to
that
me,
terminology. Yes.
but that's it, right? So you can sit in adversarial
Hmm.
on opposite ends, or you can sit on the same side working for a common purpose. And we take that approach both with our customers and our suppliers.
Hmm.
And I think that to me is it sounds so different
Hmm.
in today's sort of large distribution landscape, but in all due respect, that's really what the business was when
Hmm.
it was all beginning.
Yeah.
So I've really tried to stay true to that. And I think that's been our, sort of true north in terms of really how we show up. And I don't want to ever see that change.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. As long as you're in charge, that's not happening.
That's right. I love it.
Right. And, and yet there has been a lot of change in the industry. And
100%.
maybe starting with one concept. Do you know Dave from Dave's Gourmet?
Sure.
Yeah, we did a podcast recently, and he was talking about when he first started with like his insanity sauce and how he was really in these specialty markets, and like he mentioned the specialty show, and he said that those really don't exist the way that they used to.
They're different.
Could be some pretty good sized chains, and just the sheer number of them has really dwindled. And I'm wondering if you agree with that and seeing the same thing and how that's affected your business.
I agree with that, although I'll challenge that also because it's what you do. It's frankly, I think some of the best value comes actually outside of the show, and it's the people that you meet,
Yeah.
right? So I think back to 15 years ago where I was at one of the shows in San Francisco, and there was another regional distributor, Renaissance Foods, that was at the
Oh
time
yeah.
celebrating their 25th anniversary. So, what does one good citizen do? He goes to celebrate his friends, right? So, we were there, really
Right.
to support Glenn and Aretti. And little did I know, I start talking to a guy, and he's the buyer at Gourmet Garage in New York City. And he says, I really like you. You should come and see me. So we set up an appointment, and 2 months later, he's on my calendar, and I show up, and then and there, we hit
Yeah.
it off, and that led to a multi-year relationship, deep partnership with them, which then led to another relationship with Fairway when Village came in and purchased them, and now over into the shop right side. So like, really? So that one little cocktail party that I was at, 15-ish years ago, but there's a lot of value at the trade shows. It's what you do with it. I want to be the first guy there. I want to be the last guy out. I'm petitioning the Specialty Food Association. Why are they closing the show so early? Cuts off important time for people like us that like to work the show. And I learned that.
Seriously?
Oh yeah, but I learned that from my dad.
Yeah.
It's funny. He was the guy when I first started. I would walk the show with him because I was learning everything I could. Right. So I was like, man, this guy walks so slow. He talks to everybody. I'm that guy now,
Yeah, right.
and my team, like, but you know what? You never know. You
Yeah.
never know who that person is. And it's like, I'm always kind to people. I always try
Yep.
and reach out. I always try and help them. And, it's not really with an expectation that something's going to come of that, but
Right.
like,
It's just what you do.
in time, the world works in your favor.
I agree. Yeah, 100%. That's what I've experienced in my life as well. How has the customer base changed, like
Sure.
over your lifetime of being involved in the
It's a great
business?
question. I think it's evolved, right? If I look back, it's very interesting. I think Chex is fairly unique in our longevity. So, in our top 25 customers, I would say on average, our relationships span on over 25 years. It's the same number, a little bit less, maybe about 21 years on the vendor side, right? And that still includes a significant amount of growth and newness. But I think, there's been a lot of consolidation, Luke.
Yeah.
I think that some of the folks, and listen, I couldn't be happier for some of our customers that go back to my grandfather, that are some of our largest, deepest relationships today. Like,
Yep.
and yet we've been able to, grow from when I first started. Our sort of area, if you will, was really Massachusetts, Rhode Island, a little bit of Connecticut, and to be able to sort of take that model that we have and to be able to
Yep.
go to expand geographically and find value with other retailers that maybe, before they had no idea who we were. And, I'm not in this for the notoriety, but I think,
Yep.
but I think at the end of the day, the landscape has changed and you have to change with it. And I think
Yeah.
if you don't, I probably would have gone by the wayside of so many of the other, you talk about
Yes.
retail landscape.
Yep.
How about the distributor landscape?
Yeah. So many.
All
So
the people that I would have called my, competitors when we first started,
gone.
virtually all gone.
Yeah. And that's a
Or
testament. Yeah, that's a testament to me, to the purpose, the mission, the values that your grandfather instilled in the business from the beginning, living on through your dad, living on through you. I mean, what do you think your grandfather would say if he saw the business today? Could you imagine?
wow. I think he'd be shocked. I think he'd be
In what
proud.
way?
Well,
Yeah.
I think he'd be proud of how we do business more than anything. I think that was, it was a real gentleman's relationship business. And I really
Yeah.
do my best to uphold that and my team to uphold that. But I think he would have been really, marveled about how the product mix has grown, how we've grown in size. Like, he started the business. His warehouse was his mother's living room. Right. And then he graduated to a garage, down the road in Sharon,
Yeah. Right.
Massachusetts. Right. So that was a big move. Right. So I think to sort of see that, that those changes, I think would probably shock him. But, I had good role models. I was also given, a real gift of, a great relationship, great reputation, and,
Hmm.
a really solid balance sheet, which we protected and maintained. So, I think these are things that, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the groundwork and
Yeah. You
the
stand on shoulders. You stand
I
on the
really
shoulders of
do.
giants, right?
I
And
know I do.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And so, do you? Is there a sense of responsibility that you feel in terms
Oh,
of carrying
big
things
time.
forward? Yeah.
Big time. I think about responsibility in so many ways, but I think one of the main responsibilities I have is all of the people that count on us.
Hmm.
Whether it's our employees that count on us, our retailers that count on us,
Hmm.
our suppliers. I live by a simple mathematical equation often, and I depend on this one. Um, E minus R equals D. Let me let you finish that coffee.
Please.
So expectation minus reality equals disappointment. Okay. So
Oh.
me, I hate D. I don't like to disappoint. So I really try and help, have clear expectations that are shared. I really help trying to deliver on those. I mean, if you look at our trucks, they say delivering excellence on them. It doesn't say delivering mediocrity, right? Not being funny, but like that's what disappoints me if we ever sort of, have a lapse, which happens, but
once a year, right? Yeah, I made a
yeah,
mistake
well,
once. We made a
but
mistake once.
it's funny if you look back, one of the biggest challenges, and you learn more about people through challenges than in any of the good times,
Yeah, you
was
do.
COVID, right? The pandemic tested us all in such ways we had no idea. There was no playbook. We didn't know what to expect. And all I knew is about 2 weeks before it all started to rumble was I had my sales person down in New Jersey saying people are panicking down here. They're buying out the stores. And literally, I can mark the day. It was March 13th, 2020. That was a Friday. We sent everybody home with their computers and monitors and didn't know what was coming and said, hey, we'll see you in a few days, right?
Yeah, a few days.
Yeah, right. And I remember that Saturday, my supply chain team, my CFO, myself, we were on this newfangled like Zoom call.
Zoom. We used
Yeah,
Zoom
right.
before,
No,
right?
yeah, that sounded like God bless you, So, but we just started buying and buying, and we just said, you know what? I'd rather be looking at it than looking for it. And we really went out of our way to deliver an exceptional service level and find a way, whether it was, finding trailers of hand sanitizer or flour or who knows, chicken broth. It didn't matter. But you just did what you needed to do to take care of the customer. And I'll never forget, I had one of my suppliers forward an email that he sent to his warehouse. He said, put Chex's order first in line. And I won't say whose name was below the line,
Yeah, that's good.
but
Protect the
but but
innocent.
he said, you know what? They're going to get it out to the customer.
Yeah,
Right. So,
that's it.
but that was probably one of the most trying moments. And it really proved to be a very pivotal moment for us, where
Yeah,
we were able to, lean in for our customers, lean in for our suppliers, and really come
yeah,
through in a way. I was so proud of my team, and
yeah.
I would go in and literally just look at my, walk my warehouse with my guys. I mean, everybody was a little bit different levels of tolerance. Those guys are brave warriors, but we made it
Well, I
happen.
just I I just want to say, like, I think it starts from the top. I think I know it comes from the top. It has to. And I'm just thinking about the dinner we had recently, and a customer had an emergency, and
Oh
they were
yeah.
texting us at dinner, and hey guys, in a couple of minutes, I gotta resolve this. This is a really
That's
important
right.
issue, and I think you were even talking about running down to the warehouse or something. Like, okay,
Yeah.
like you're
They,
president of this really good sized organization that operates over the entire East Coast, and we're at dinner, and you're like, it's Christmas. I'm gonna go, holidays. I'm gonna run down there, take care of business, and that's just when people see that. And I think this is like, the observation is, you grew up through the ranks. Everyone saw
that's
you.
right.
And you. I don't know. You're probably highly respected, and now they're at for many years now running the company.
Yeah.
You still, it isn't like, oh, there's us and them. It's like, it's us. Like, it's the Chex team, right?
I mean, I think on many ways it's been one of the things that I might frustrate my brother with sometimes, but I don't know the word no too often. So I'm
Mm.
always trying to find a way to be able to make something happen. And that's a
Yes.
perfect
Yes.
example. But I
Yes.
learned that, the person I actually learned it from was my mother. Right. So my
Okay.
mother worked in the business as well, and she
Oh, I
was in
didn't know that.
sales. Oh yeah, she was in sales, and her customers loved her. And why did they love her? Because she always made it happen, right? So if they needed
Mm-hmm.
something, she'd throw it in the back of the car, which means that I would get kicked out of the back seat. So I would have to sit on top of the cases, felt like I was on a surfboard. But then Jeremy would have to go in and stack the cases for the customer. But I learned that. I mean, those lessons you can't replicate.
Yeah.
But I knew that that's what it meant.
Yeah.
And I tried to instill that in my team, and carry
Well,
that on.
well, and it's working, and for you, you're working single temp, right? You're doing
Yeah.
everything's ambient. Do you do chocolate? Do you like
We
temperature
do.
control?
We do have a temperature controlled candy room where all our
Okay.
chocolate is stored, and
Okay.
it's interesting because candy's become like truly one of our top 2 or 3 categories.
Hmm.
So yes, we've always had that, throughout. So
Yeah,
yeah,
but
but
if you think,
everything is. Yeah, go ahead.
if you think about it, like our business, and me speaks when I say our, it's like I used to run a business somewhat similar to yours.
Yeah,
It's really about drop sizes is profitability, right? And
sure.
the fact that you've been able to carry on the family tradition, third generation, and do it in a single temp environment, which limits the drop sizes, right? The universe you play in isn't as far as a Unify or a KeHE or can play in, and yet you still make it work, and then do it in a way where you show up at a higher level, right? The level of service, the
Yeah.
sales team that actually sells, the service levels that are best in class. And so, how is the secret? Just you mentioned earlier on, like the relationships. Is it
Yeah.
relationships? But it can't be just that. There's something,
No.
and you mentioned service. Maybe it's service, right? Reliability, perhaps.
Yeah. I mean, listen. At the end of the day, people. What matters more, actually, Luke, if I put one word on it, it's trust. Right.
Trust. Yep.
So you have to earn trust,
Yep.
and it's very easy to break it. But from our standpoint, what we've always tried to do, and I remind myself of this, I mean, daily, it feels like you
Hmm.
have to add value.
Hmm. Right.
Right. So
Or
so
you're not going to sustain very long. You can sustain for a while, and you won't lose it all at once. But over time, you would go out of business, right? If you
that's
did
right.
not create value.
So you have to be. It's funny. We kind of take it back to my grandfather. My grandfather, when he started Chex, before he was in this business, he was in a wholesale grocery business, right?
Hmm.
So all the commodities, much higher volume, and he sort of broke off and went into the specialty food business. And I know these stories because I was part
Hmm.
of these conversations. And my dad would say, "Hey, pops, which business did you like better? Which do you like better?" And he'd say, "Well, the specialty food business. Why? It's more creative." Right. So, things that we do that maybe the traditional distributor
Creative.
doesn't, whether it's,
Yeah.
we import from 7 different countries directly. I've been able to help our retailers with some, private label programs. We've developed exclusive brands
Hmm.
that we've built, whether they're our own or others. You really sort of find other ways across the stream to be able to
Hmm.
add value. And I understand your comments, and I'm kind of in a situation where I'm still delivering, you know, um, at a higher level. I still have, to be able to manage a good business,
Hmm.
and do so competitively.
Yes.
So I've learned that. Like when I first came into the business, I mean, if I looked at my gross profit margin today,
Right.
percentage, right? And I, nope, but I got that from my dad. Saw it early on, and
Yeah.
he said, "Jeremy, you can't deposit a percentage at the bank."
Nope. It's
Okay,
dollars. That's a
so
that's a
I've
my dad's
evolved,
thing.
and
Yeah.
so like you have to have some things that you can be a little bit more profitable on, but you also have
Yeah.
things that you have to be really competitive on, and that's where some of the volume comes on.
Right.
And you've talked about a couple things about the landscape. Well,
Mhm.
their crumbs is my bread, right? So
Right.
there you got to pay attention to the customer. So who are they paying attention to? Are they paying attention to the guy that's buying 1 million or 2 million or 5 million a year, or
No.
are they paying
No.
attention to,
No.
right? And what I really realized that I didn't know is, even as the customer has gotten bigger and we've grown with some of these really large size customers, I thought well, wait a minute. Well, they're going to look after those guys even, more closely, and that's going to be more difficult to penetrate. You know what? The
Hmm.
pain's just as high. So the
Yeah.
opportunity's there.
Yeah. It sure is. And maybe going a little bit deeper into that,
Yeah.
I don't hear anyone ever complaining about checks and the cost of doing business. Is that fair? I
I
don't
think it's
think.
fair.
I think we're like they're running to you.
Well, you have to be, we're honest, right?
Yeah.
And this isn't like, It's funny. There's a few different ways to make money in this business, but you can really make money on the back end, or you can really
Mm.
try and make money by selling product and adding value.
Well, and you hit it, right? So this is the challenge, right? So if you read my LinkedIn posts,
Oh yeah,
I
no,
wrote
I
about
know.
this,
We
right? It's,
talk about
and
this.
you
Yeah.
and we talk about it, right? So it's this idea of they, we're told when they're selling to Whole Foods to figure 8%, your competitor,
No way.
and
Way
when you
less.
look at their financials, it costs them 12% to operate their company, or maybe more. I forgot what it was in those
Yeah.
recent financials, and then I imagine that so they're making it on the buy, and then you make it on the sell.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, like, as I think about it, someone who's worked at KeHE, for example, like
Sure.
it feels like there's perverse incentives when you make it on the buy, right?
Hmm.
You're not as focused on the customer and doing it right, because really, in some ways, you make more of your money on the manufacturer
Well,
than you do selling product.
I'll tell you something I learned, and it's actually I got to give credit to Rich Durante, who is a dear friend of mine. He was the president of King's, and he was the chief merchant at Fresh Market. And we do business with both these retailers. And Rich took me out to lunch. Like, how often does the retailer take you out to lunch? But he obviously
No,
had something on his mind, and
yeah,
he said, I need some help from you. And I said, what is it? He said, I just need you to ratchet up your service level like a few more points, because I think with a few more points, I can get you a lot more business.
wow,
And, and so we did. And, it was an investment. We put like an extra almost week of safety stock just to be able to,
that's
really
cash.
deliver on it. Okay, a lot of cash. But at the end of the day, we buy to basically protect our service level, right? So
Yeah,
I don't care if I'm buying off deal. If I'm in stock, the customer's
right,
happy. And
right.
honestly, that's a big difference. And that's been a key competitive advantage, right? So, when a retailer is saying, hey, I'm going to pay a little bit more,
Yeah.
but guess what? I'm going to be in stock. I don't have the headaches. I
Yes.
actually have these guys sitting on the same side of the table as me.
Yep.
It's a
Yep.
different, if
I like the
it's a
same
different,
side of the table.
it's a,
Yeah.
it's a
'Cause
different,
who cares if you're paying 8% markup versus 12 when there's nothing on the shelf to sell?
or honestly, what's markup?
Right.
Okay. Like,
Yeah.
do you have a base cost that's honest, or do you
Hmm.
have a base cost that's inflated? Right.
Yeah.
So like, I've actually been shot, I've learned a lot. I've been at this
Yeah.
for a few decades, but I've learned a lot, and I'm like, okay, I've got the higher upcharge, but my end cost is lower.
Freight. It's
Okay.
freight.
But I think some of it's also income, right? So like, when they're not getting income, and they find
Yeah.
ways to get it one way or the other. But no, yeah, it's just there's a lot of factors. But and frankly, we operate today out of one single warehouse,
Which is
and
so efficient. So
it's
efficient.
so efficient. And so
Inbound
for us,
efficiencies are wild. Yeah.
yeah, so I think you can honestly use that to our advantage. I mean, maybe over time, I mean, we're honestly looking at ways to extend our geography, and, I think there's some opportunities ahead that might allow us to be able to do that.
Yeah.
I still think we'd have one primary sort of
Yep.
main hub that we would operate, which today is in Massachusetts. But, I mean, it's
But
not that hard, and you operate that business much at a much higher
yeah.
service level, so there's a
Yeah. No,
lot of benefits that come of it.
I agree. I mean, I remember Monterey, my distribution company,
Sure.
we operate out of one DC covering 18 states at one point. And you're right. Like, we won so much business because the inbound freight made so much more sense coming into one DC versus my competitors 5.
Yeah.
And yeah, that freight side is huge. And I honestly believe that the larger distributors are, really earning an unreasonable amount of, or just maybe it's a market, but they're earning a lot of money on that inbound side, and that
Yeah.
it's a big part of it. And I don't know if you're comfortable sharing, but as you think about like when you're picking up from manufacturers,
Yeah.
my sense is you have some efficiency. Your truck was already there. You're not trying to get rich. You just want to make sure that kind of cover the costs coming back home
Totally.
on some
Yeah.
level. That's how you. It's
Yeah. I
not
mean,
like yeah.
we're pretty honest when it comes to these things, and listen, there's still a cost to operate. I mean, sometimes you end up putting a driver overnight
Yeah. There's
And
some
you have to
costs.
take
Yeah.
on extra costs to be able to do these things. But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, like I pick up a fraction of how much freight I end up going myself,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, some of the things that when I think about how we can grow is, how actually can I be able to both, extend my service coverage direct,
Yeah.
because the more that I can do direct, and, you said 18 states you were
Yeah.
in initially.
Yeah.
I don't have the number down cold, but I would tell you it's probably about 27 states that we service out of Massachusetts. Okay.
So I was in the corner of the world in San Diego. You're in the corner
Yeah.
of the world in
Well,
Massachusetts.
but maybe that's the secret sauce. You just have to be in the corner of the world.
Corner of the world.
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, but I think at
Yeah.
the end of the day, like, ultimately you want to be closer, and more effective to your customer. And I think
Yeah.
anytime a Chex truck can roll up is a good thing.
Yeah.
It's not simply about cost. It's about you
Right.
can control the experience that the customer has. And,
Hmm.
we have a lot of customers that we're able to obviously get to not on a direct fleet. And we're very lucky about how we've been able to,
Yeah.
build those constructs. But at
Yeah.
the end of the day, service is what everybody really remembers.
Well, it is, and I love what you said a little bit earlier about trust, and I used to use the term reliability. Reliability is really trust as well. If you're
Yeah, it is.
reliable,
Sure it
then
is.
you build that trust, and I feel like that's so much. And what's really beautiful is that for the retailers that you service, that they value at the end of the day probably a reasonable landed cost,
Mhm.
a markup that you can make a profit on the sales side, and are able to ignore the marketing of a low markup, right? Because
Right.
that's effectively what it is. And you obviously been doing a great job of helping people understand and see through the forest, if you will, to what reality
Well,
is.
you go back one more step. You talked about reliability, okay? And, we know this, right? There's been a tremendous amount of consolidation in the
Yes.
distribution world, right? So at the end of the day, too, I think there's another part in addition to the reliability that I think was born out of the pandemic was you can't have all your eggs in one basket.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so I think, our world is really being a trusted supplier. And in many ways, some of my growth, I mean, we have a lot of, phenomenal relationships that, we're their primary supplier. I may share a retailer with a customer, and, at the end of the day, they, we find ways to be able to grow that
Mm-hmm.
business once we're
Mm-hmm.
there,
Yep.
right? So it's sort
Yeah.
of like,
Just give me an opportunity. Yeah.
because you'll be able to outperform.
Yes.
They
Yep.
just don't know because they've only been used to this one option for so long. So,
No. Yeah.
it's a very interesting reality, but I've seen it play out time and
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
And, it's been a big piece of our growth is
Yeah.
really being able to grow,
No, I
share in a customer.
I love that. Yeah, I'm thinking of when I remember we were a little San Diego distributor, and they went started trying to taking care of Sprouts. They're like, well, we have who do they have? They had DPI at the time
Sure.
and Nature's Best, and they're
Sure.
like, what? And for it's Shamrock on the food service side, and they're like, why do we need you? And and I'm like, well, give me one thing, and just let me just try to earn it. Like, and they're like, well, there's this lavash that no one will bring in for us, and I'm like, okay. And it's like, we were going to run a truck from San Diego 360 miles to Phoenix to 4 stores at the time that Sprouts had, and I'm like, yeah, like I want to earn this. I believe in you guys,
That's right.
and I mean, how many times have you done something crazy, right? And
Oh my
your night
God.
crew guys, like, you sure you want this truck going with 4 cases on it?
I'll
So,
tell you, I literally before our call, I
yeah,
had one of my key account managers were a customer. The holiday week screwed everybody's
yeah.
ordering up, and they missed the order deadline. It was like, what time is it? Like 3 o'clock in the afternoon for an 11 o'clock deadline. And
Ooh,
his initial answer was, "Sorry, I can't get it." And I said, "Hold, timeout." Conference call, get my operations director on the phone. Guess what? That order's going out tonight.
oh yeah, it
It's
is.
just like
Oh yeah,
there's
it
that.
is.
There's no other answer. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think as you grow, you'll be able to keep that level of nimbleness and reliability?
I think a lot about that, and yes, I
Hmm.
think that. But in order to do that, I have to keep. It's like the starter yeast that's in the bowl. Okay. I
Yeah.
have to continue to be able to demonstrate and have, I've been able to do that, but to
Hmm.
continue to build the team that has that same, mindset of service, and commitment, which I really feel like, we
Hmm.
do. This guy's he's a great guy. He's only been a Chex guy for like less than a year. So give him another year. He wouldn't even call me, but
You would
no,
know.
yeah, it's all good. So it's,
I, I love that. Yeah, I think, but to your point on that guy, I mean, I don't know about you, but in my organization, I almost felt like we almost empower people to be CEOs. There's a bias toward action, a bias toward
yeah,
reliability, or a bias for taking care of people, which I would contend is the opposite of what you would see in a larger organization that,
yeah.
that just really can't allow that. Right.
I,
So
I have a lot of, I fancy myself as still a young guy, but like,
you
I've
are,
been around,
you look great.
and I've learned from good people. And I actually remember, it was my accountant when I was sort of like first starting in the business, and I was looking at things and saying, why can't we do it this way? And my dad didn't do it that way. And he literally looked at me one day and he leans in and he said, Jeremy, ask for forgiveness, not for permission.
Yeah. I use that all the
Okay.
time. That's so
Okay.
funny.
Right.
Yep.
So, but I think that that's important for my team to be able to, do
Yeah.
more of. I think
Bias toward
sometimes
action.
I want them
Yep.
to do more of that,
Yeah.
and keep doing more, because I think ultimately there isn't a decision that's ever going to put us out of business.
Yeah.
And if you do the right thing, it will come back to you at the end. And,
I, I love it.
it's, yeah,
So we have a lot of brands that listen to this podcast, and I just, for those
sure.
that don't really know you yet, could you
Yeah.
describe like the type of itemization that you
Yeah.
specialize in, that you're looking to partner with brands around,
I love
and
it.
even the size of brands that work best with you
No,
too?
it's all good. Yeah, no, I mean, I think Chex's portfolio would really represent a cross section of brands that are, truly sort of brand new to the market. I think we do a tremendous amount of incubation, but I need incubation with brands of people that you have to have two things in common. You have to have a like-minded purpose. Okay. Don't give me a great product and a person that's, not aligned with
Yeah.
trying to really, be open and wanting to grow. So those great product, great people. So I think that that's a lot of, and I think about, and I'll come back, maybe we'll tell some stories about some of the brands we helped start. Okay.
Sure. That'd be
And then
great.
I think we have, our orientation. I think I'd classify us as a little bit more specialty than natural.
Got
I
it.
mean, the worlds
There,
have bled over.
yeah. Yep.
Yep. Okay. So
Totally.
I tell you a significant number of the overwhelming majority of our products would be clean label, but I don't think that,
Mm.
listen, people still want Haribo gummy bears, and I'm going to sell them
Yeah.
to them, but I think, and some of the large brands that have sort of grown and evolved, some of these were a few of our first, like a Justin's Nut Butter, a Tate's Cookies, like they're
Hmm.
still big brands, with us. And so I feel like our cross section is really around, key specialty categories, so cookies, crackers, candies, snacks. We do a tremendous olive oil business, really where people can differentiate. And what I really care about, and what my team cares about is, we really want to be able to help grow together. And so
Hmm.
I look at brands and feel like in many ways, that's the secret sauce. Like you need to have alignment, and you need to have, really a commitment to each other that, what? So to your point, the other guys might be looking to take in a different way. Help
Yeah.
support me. Let's put it back into the product and help
Yeah.
grow the business in a different way. And I
Yeah.
think that that's really where we win. But, I think we're very open. I think we love to try new products. I mean, I think, when I look back at some of my, our best wins, it's the things we've taken a chance on.
Yep.
But you need to, but the world's smarter and the shelf space is competitive. So you really need to be able to,
Yeah.
know what you're getting into. And I'll trade off a little bit of I'll take a guy with a little bit lesser of a deep pocket, but really more hustle
Yep.
and, passion in a better product. I'll always choose the better product.
Yeah.
So, that's Chex. I mean, that to me is,
Yeah.
it wins.
I love that. I love that. And you said you may have a story. I'd love to
Oh my
hear.
God. Which one? We'll
Yeah,
pick,
the
we'll pick
best
from,
one.
oh, I don't know. I think Justin's nut butters to me. I'll never forget this. This was way back when they were first starting. If you might remember, it was like this really ugly brown label in a round cylinder jar of peanut butter. There was not even any confections at the time, and there was just a wonderful human being, Lance Gentry, who was running the business. He's the CEO alongside Justin Gold, the founder, and at the time, Lance came to me and he said, "You know what? I'm in UNFI Dayville. Oops, well, I'm at a large distributor in their local warehouse,
Yeah.
and he was doing $100,000, and he said,
Wow.
I'm a really small fish in a big pond.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather be a bigger fish in a smaller pond." And he really, really went out of his way to prioritize our relationship.
Wow.
And we collaborated at a very deep level. And 3 years later, we were doing $3 million with them, and
Wow.
and we helped put that brand on the map. And I never will forget, people I loved, and this is a great lesson for any brand that has multiple segments, right?
Yeah.
So he's like, well, I've got my nut butters and I've got my squeeze packs and I've got my candy, and everybody wants to be on sale. Well, let's run them one segment a month. And I looked at him, I said, can we rip that up? And he goes, why? I said, I want an end cap. Right.
Yeah.
So we did a family display, and that was
cool.
like the first moment where all of a sudden, and then I looked at him, I said, can we do a display contest? What's involved? I said, do you trust me? Right. So, right. So we did a display contest, and that was when they came out with the peanut butter cups. And we had in our stores watermelon bins filled of peanut butter cups.
Oh my God.
And it was at every checkout. And guess what we did? We put it in everybody's mouth. And it goes back to, one of those lessons about the better product that my dad taught me. People buy with their eyes and they come back with their stomachs, right? So he redid his packaging. He got a better distributor. And we
the best distributor.
Thank you. Yep. And we put the product in front and center for people to, say yes to. And I'm so proud of that. Lance unfortunately passed away, and I feel like, to this day, I always want to honor his memory, with the work that we do. And they're still great partners even today. So, that's probably one I'm super proud of.
Yeah, that is one to be proud of. And it's interesting because I think in most brands today working with larger distributors see it almost more as an impediment to try to navigate through, as opposed to a partnership. I mean, a true partnership, right? Where it can be win-win, and even more than win-win, like synergistic. And it's beautiful to think that's possible in this world, right?
Of course it is, Yeah. But I think too, it's like you got to take a chance on people too. Like I've made incredibly wildly wrong bets, or Chex has made wild bets. And we talk about them, it's sort of like, I'll never forget, we bought I thought, wow, organic cotton candy. What a great idea. I remember the company, Pure Fun, out of Canada.
Healthy.
What a flop. Because guess what? People just wanted cotton candy. They didn't care if it was organic.
They don't care.
So, okay, so we lost, right? But, you go back, and I think about other, many other stories where, I think of another one. There was a local tortilla chip company, and he had a truck, and he was pedaling around to all these stores, and he had a great product. And a couple of my customers, my sales reps, like, hey, Jeremy, you got to try this. So I called him up. He didn't know anything. He was just making, chips in his tortilleria, where he was making fresh, sandwiches.
Yeah.
So, we look back, and, now I think last year, we were at first we were buying his entire production, which was a whopping 300 cases a week. I think, last year we probably did, I don't know, close to 100,000 cases, so it's sort of like, you think about these things, and it's like, you got to take a chance on people.
Yeah, you do.
It's important.
You do. And speaking of people, you have a team of salespeople who actually have the capability of selling. And I think when people tell me, like, hey, there are some great UNFI, KE, these large distributor reps, right? The challenge is they have 100,000 products, SKUs that they need to sell. And like, how in the world could they ever focus on anything to be effective? And my understanding from you, and knowing you being my friend, is like your salespeople sell. like
Oh, big
almost like a broker in a way, representing brands.
I agree with that. I take that as a compliment in many ways because I think like, I go back to a lot of the lessons that I take away from the heritage of our business.
Mm-hmm.
It was always about selling. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because nobody knew what specialty foods were.
Right.
So you were educating, and I still think about the importance of education. The second Friday of every month is still a check sales meeting. And what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
Our team comes in. Um, we have our suppliers come in. We educate them. They're trying product. Our category managers are up there, talking with them. It's sort of, and I really look at that and I'd say it comes back to that framework we keep talking about. Like you have to add value. You have to sit on the same side of the table. So how are you going to add value if you don't know what it is that you're selling? And
Yeah.
so, as I saw more of the national distributors peeling people out of the market and
Mm-hmm.
not in, taking costs out and making these, my mind, great customers, inside sales accounts. What a great opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I
Yeah.
think, to me, we've evolved. I mean, I've changed the roles and, brought on more key account managers as we've gotten working with
Mm-hmm.
larger retailer
Yeah.
groups. But, I still have merchandisers that go in and work with our independents. I don't charge them for this. Like, it's just
Wow.
what you do.
Yeah.
Right. So, but, you're helping them and it'll come back. It comes back to you. And, it's just like,
Yeah, this alignment in the supply chain, right? I think that this is what this is beautiful, right? Because in a way, ideally in a supply chain, there would be people would be paid for the value they create for the next step in the supply chain, right? So
sure,
you earn your money from retailers because you're creating value for them, and the retailers create
sure.
value for consumers. And so, but again, that perverse incentive when you try to make money the other way for access to a channel effectively, right? That's where it starts to get a little buggy. And
But that's
I
also
think,
where you look at the supplier and you really,
mm,
are working with them and you
yeah,
understand that what value that we're ultimately helping to bring and create.
mm-hmm.
I think they look at that and say, well, wait a minute, like I'd rather help support the person that's working to actually help me grow sales
Yeah,
as opposed to, a different priority. And
yeah,
so I think that that's a lot of where the value proposition needs to continue be nurtured and tended to and delivered upon, right?
yeah,
So, but I think for the supplier community, to have options that listen to be able to access great customers, like I feel like we're very, very fortunate. We have, just tremendous market that we're working in,
yep,
and to be able to help them not just be here, but succeed and grow and have someone being
mm-hmm.
honest with them and giving them feedback and working with them to be able to
Yes,
grow the business in partnership. These are all words that like they roll off my tongue because it's just who we are and what we do. But others like, it's easy to talk the talk. Do you walk the walk?
right. And you walk the walk, and
Sure, try.
you can talk the walk, but that's not going to that's not going to endure for so long.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. I often like during these podcasts to in a way humanize the
Of
person I'm
course.
talking to, right? And a lot of what we're talking about here are the wins, and there's been some challenges.
Yeah.
But what was your biggest struggle that you've ever had in
I
business that
love
you
it.
had to
I
overcome?
love it. It's 2016. So we had an 18-year relationship with a large natural food retailer that's headquartered out of Austin. And, we started with 13 little stores and we grew to 71 stores, both here in New England and New York, New Jersey. And the year before, we were, awarded the grocery vendor of the year by one of the divisions, the overall
Wow,
supplier partner of the year out of every department. And the next year we were, sent packing with 60 days notice. And,
wow,
it was,
whoa,
there was worlds of things going on that had nothing to do with me, that had everything to do with their financial performance and their balance sheet and their stock price. So I don't take it personally, but
yeah,
that was a tough moment, to be able to say, well, wait a minute, we're doing such a great job And
Then that's not
why?
enough. And that's
Right.
not enough.
And to say, well, we can save and get a better cost. Well, to get a better cost, you need to be able to sell the same goods that you were selling, which unfortunately over
Right.
time went
Right.
away because of those unique things that we were doing. Right. So, from my standpoint, that was a big humbling experience. But you know what? My dad was still alive.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked, we had a lot of chats, and he said, I've been through this. I've lost major accounts,
Mm-hmm.
kind of a decade type thing. This happened
Yep.
in the 70s and this one happened
Yep.
in the 80s.
Yep.
The 90s was a good year, but so it just, but he looked at me and he tapped me he put his arm around my shoulder and he said, you're going to be okay. And I
The
looked at him
confidence. Wow.
and I just said, okay, I guess that's true. I'm going to be okay. And
Mm.
I hung up a flag outside of the wall of my office. I might be mispronouncing this for any of our Navy veterans. I apologize, but like, never give up the ship, right? So
Yeah.
that was my mantra.
Yeah.
And one door closed, but four opened, and
Wow.
we've grown by about 4x since that moment. So I look at that and say, you know what? Okay, it was a dark night, but some very bright stars came from it, and I
Wow.
learned a lot about myself, but moreover, I really learned about my company, my people, and
Mm-hmm.
our both our customers and our vendors. I had people calling me, Jeremy, what can I do to help?
Yeah.
What can I do to help support you? And we're very
Wow.
fortunate. It's just we had
Wow.
a lot of things that started to come our way, and the world works in funny ways, but I feel like, maybe all those good deeds that we did over those years started to come back a little bit. So um,
Yeah.
it ended up being a really good moment for us in
Yeah.
the long term.
I think what's beautiful, I've often thought about the people who've been there to encourage me in my worst moments and
Yeah,
the darkest night, if you will. And like what a gift your dad was in that moment. Like
totally.
the idea of encouragement is like one of the biggest gifts you could get. Like he put courage into you by just his words and his belief and his confidence in you to see this through. I
Yeah,
mean,
he's
like
still with me.
wow.
He's
Yeah.
still with me.
Oh, of
You
course.
know,
Of
but I
course.
think no, it made all the difference in the world. I mean, I was still a young lad, and to have someone say, "Hey, I've been through this, and everything turned out okay, and you're
Yeah.
going to be okay." And I have a amazing, supportive wife, Amanda, who you
She's
met,
amazing.
and I have
Yep.
3 wonderful kids, and
Yep.
I'm healthy, and so when you look at things like, okay, like, so now I just got a challenge that I got to work through, and I worked
Yep.
through it. But like, I have a lot of blessings that would never change regardless of what happened in the business.
I love that. And you I'm just thinking about if you have any practices that you have that help keep
Mm,
you grounded and
mm.
focused and in your vision. Anything specific you do?
One of the most important things to me that's non-negotiable is family time.
Okay.
And I just came
Fills
back
your
from
tank? Yeah.
big time. And I will tell you something. I'll never forget this. So I was away. This is God. I don't know. I'm very good at numbers. You asked me for an item number of a product that we sell, I could tell you. What day or month this was, I couldn't tell you. But I was
Yeah.
on vacation, and my phone was ringing nonstop. And Amanda looked at me. She goes, "Okay, are we on vacation? Or are you working? Which is it?"
Good
So
challenging
honestly,
energy.
yep.
Yeah.
When I'm away with my family, they know there's no email, there's no computer that's coming with me. I might keep my watch on, I might not, but the only reason I have my phone is to, text and take pictures. Other than that, and I'm talking text my kids, not text anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where are we
Yeah.
meeting up for dinner? Or like, where are
Yeah.
you? I'm already at the beach.
Yeah.
But that to me is like time with my family. I mean, my son was a goalie for his soccer team this fall. I was the loudest fan cheering for him at his games. Like, it would pain me if I was missing one of them. I was in New Jersey driving home from a customer meeting. I had the game playing on the car, so I was listening to it as I was driving home. Like, that's what fuels me. That's what motivates me and inspires me, and also giving back. I really want to touch on that for a minute. This is also part of the heritage. My grandparents came to this country with nothing
Mm-hmm.
in the early part of the century. And, we really didn't come from means.
Mm-hmm.
So, my grandmother was a huge community organizer and volunteer. And she sit me down at her kitchen table, and she taught me the values that I still have today. And I try and teach these to my kids and to others. And she told me, save before you spend, and give back to those that are less fortunate than you are.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I really feel like we have a family foundation that I am, I feel it's a mantle and a
Mm-hmm.
responsibility to be a steward, and help support our community. And I look forward to having more time, as I get older, to be able to find other ways to find those in need and help support them. That's super important to me. And I get a lot of joy out of that.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
it's
No,
important.
that's I could feel the energy and the
Yeah.
emotion as you were sharing about that, and isn't it beautiful, in a way. It's a couple of things. Number one is you took what was created by your grandfather, carried on by your father, and then carried
Yeah.
on by you. And it wasn't, you didn't squander it. A lot of times we see in third generation family run businesses, it goes a little crazy. And what a great steward you've been
Thank you.
of the not just the business, but the values, I
Thank
think,
you.
that you were like from your
That's a bit
grandmother, like you shared.
that's a big compliment coming from you. And I think, like, no, but what it is to run a business like this. And it's
It's
not
hard.
easy,
It's really hard.
and no, I take that as a super high honor. I was given the statistic. I told you I'm good at numbers. 83% of family businesses fail at the third
Third
generation.
generation.
And when I showed up, one
Yep.
of our buyer, I think we had one buyer at the time. He quit like a month in. And I looked at him and I said, "Why are you leaving?" I said, "I just got here. We're about to do some good things." He said, "Well, I heard you're a drug addict. Never done drugs." And
The
third generation,
rumors.
he goes, "Third generation family businesses always fail." I said, "Okay." I don't know what he's up to now, but
It'd be
no, but
great to
I mean,
call him.
no, but the numbers are really stacked against
Yeah.
you. And I think that
Yeah.
some of it is like part of the reason that I've succeeded is because of those learnings and those values that I've been
Yeah.
passed down to me. And one other thing that we have in common, how kind of we met, was through YPO.
Yeah, totally.
So there's a
Huge.
lot of folks in the world that don't know about YPO. It's I think they've lost the actual calling it Young Presidents Organization, but they had to abbreviate like everybody else over time.
Yes.
But for me, like, I've been in YPO for 16 years, and it's all about continuous learning.
Yep.
It's about growth,
Yep.
and being around great
Community.
people that are always challenging you and great
Yep.
experiences. And I have been so active in YPO, and I've met incredible people, many of which were in the food industry. There's always gatherings at the fancy food show or the expo.
Yep. Yep.
I feel very, that gives me a lot of energy too.
Yeah.
So,
No, me too.
I wouldn't been able to do that if I wasn't doing what I'm doing, I don't think.
Yeah, me too. YPO has been, I've been a member for like 13 years, and has been, it's interesting. You join like a business organization, and it's not like it's joining an organization. It's like it's like my life in many ways is like my family, my business, and then it's YPO. And because it's such an integral part of everything I've done, all my success, my worst days, my best days, it's been shared with YPOers.
Well, I think, running a business is a lonely endeavor in many ways. And,
yes,
YPO is a community of peers of other presidents or people that are running businesses.
By definition.
So to be able to walk along the journey of life with some of these folks that have become some of my closest friends.
Yes.
I feel, very fortunate for that. And I'll, good times, bad times, laughs, cries, it all goes there.
Yeah, and for those that, I believe you need to run a pretty good sized organization to be a part of YPO, but there's so many. I think the idea of community, to be in community with people that can help support you, that you can help support, is, I think, the theme.
I want to touch on that for a minute. I think that's one of the other things that I take very seriously. I think that the world and our industry needs more community. There's a lot of, again, tension. And, it's, you have to be able to help give back to the industry. We sat on that panel at the Fancy
We
Food
did.
Show this summer and just talked openly, like just a candid conversation about, hey, this is what it's really about. And people come up after this, thank you for being so honest. And it's like, well, I'd rather help.
Right?
No,
Why
but you
not?
want to help people
Yeah.
be informed, because
Yeah.
I want to see people here 5, 10 years from now, or 50 years or 60 years from now. So it's sort of, you have to be able to help give back, not just, philanthropically, but to the industry. So, I think one of my dad's proudest achievements was he was inducted to the Specialty Food Hall of Fame. He was, while he was still alive. My God, that was, I still have the program. It's somewhere here in my office that he signed, and gave to me. I so want to find it. But I mean, like, what an honor, like, for the service that you gave to your industry. So,
right. That's a life well lived, right? Especially,
it is.
Yeah. And well, Jeremy, this has been a really good hour together. Thank you.
Where did it go? I loved it.
I know. I really fast.
Can I put another quarter in the jukebox? We'll stay on for another hour. Yeah,
right.
it's all good.
Right. You're a good egg, and grateful
So
for
are
everything.
you, Luke. I want to give you the appropriate, recognition. You're one of the good guys in this business, and I think, like,
Thank you.
I was taught by one of my closest suppliers, Morton, God help, from Morton and Bassett Spice Company. And he, we would joke, he said, the good guys in the white hats need to stick together, or gals, guys or gals.
Yeah.
And he gave me a white hat, and it hangs on my office door every day. And I look at it and I say, you know what? There aren't a lot of people that are really trying to help leave the world better than we found it.
Yeah.
And you're one of them. And I appreciate your having me on and having the conversation, and moreover, just the opportunity to share this crazy business that we have with other people that understand. And you're doing a lot for our space and our industry and for the community. And I want to just say thank you for that.
I am so grateful for your words, and grateful for our friendship that we've built over the last couple of years, and looking forward to it continuing. And I also, with tremendous gratitude, thank you for running your company the way you do, and being there for the brands that, it's like you're like this, the Ronald Reagan's words, but she took for someone else, but like the city on a hill.
Thank
right.
you. Oh, I don't know about that, but
that's what you created. And it's the, it's the ideal, I think, in this space today. I don't know anyone doing it better. So
thank you.
Keep it up, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Don't
that means
stop.
so much to me. I won't. But I think at the end of the day, it's sort of like you just do the right thing.
That's it.
And that's really what it's all about. And there's plenty of times where it probably hasn't fallen my way, even though I did the right thing. But 9 times out of 10 it does. And
it does.
we all need more of that. So thank you for the compliment. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the conversation and the invitation.
You're welcome. Thank you, Jeremy.
All good. Have a good night.